Welcome. Thank you for joining us for today's October 24th SBCAG board meeting. For the record, my name is Holly Sierra, and I'm the chair of the SBCAG board. Madam Clerk, please facilitate roll call.
Director Williams? Hart?
Here.
Hartman? Nelson?
Here.
Lavanino?
Here.
Patino?
Here.
Murillo? Clark? Perotti?
Here.
Urig? Osborne?
Sorry, here.
Oh, hi. Thank you, Charlie. Osborne?
Here.
Julian?
Here.
And Chair Sierra.
Here. Thank you very much. Madam Clerk, will you please read item 2 into the record?
Thank you, Chair Sierra. Do you want me to go over any Zoom reminders, or are we good?
I think we're okay.
Okay, thanks. Item 2, report on circumstances of the COVID-19 state of emergency. 2A, file and receive. A1, an update that the state and county remain under a proclaimed state of emergency related to COVID-19. And A2, public health recommendation issued September 28th, 2021 regarding social distancing. 2B, provide direction to staff about the location of the next meeting.
Director Kern.
Good morning, members of the board and Chair Sierra. Per AB 361, this board needs to direct staff on how you would like to conduct future meetings. Per 361, if the board determines that because of COVID-19 and the state of the emergency that we're in, that it is in the best interest of the board members to continue to participate in our meetings via Zoom, you need to direct staff to allow that to happen in future meetings. Otherwise, we would have to identify the physical locations of each of the board members and post those physical addresses on the agendas and allow public to participate in the meeting at those physical locations. So I would think that if we want to continue with Zoom, that you would direct staff to allow us to do that, and then that would be sufficient for public participation. Otherwise, the other choice is that we all get into the same rooms or the Santa Maria location and the Santa Barbara location and participate. The board members would need to participate in person. So at this time, we're asking for direction from staff, direction from the board to staff to continue allowing Zoom participation by board members. And this will be if this is directed, this will be a continuous item until the state of the emergency is no longer in effect. But it will be on a consent agenda, and it will just continue that direction until further notice.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Before we get to a motion, are there any questions for staff? I don't see any. Terry, is there any public comment on this item?
Chair Sierra, we received no request for public comment.
All righty. Do we have a motion?
I make a motion to proceed with the meetings as they are right now.
Julian, second.
Thank you very much, gentlemen. Terry, roll call.
Director Williams? Hart?
Aye.
Hartman? Nelson?
Aye.
Lavanino?
Aye.
Urig?
Aye.
Julian?
Aye.
Osborne?
Aye.
Patino?
Aye.
Perotti?
Aye.
Clark? Murillo? And Chair Sierra.
Aye. Thank you very much. All righty. Next up is our Pledge of Allegiance. If everybody would please stand, face the flag, I guess. Ready? Begin. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay, thank you very much. We move on to public comment. Do we have any public comment today?
Chair Sierra, we have no requests for public comment.
All righty, I am closing public comment. Moving on to item 5. Let's see, who's going to, is it our attorney who's going to, please?
Chair and directors, today the board is agendized to discuss 2 items in closed session. Both items are conference with labor negotiators under Government Code 54957.6. The first item is for all SBCAG employees. The agency designated representatives are Executive Director Kern and Martha Gibbs. The second item is for the Executive Director. The agency designated representatives are Chair Sierra and myself, Susan McKenzie. The anticipated time is about an hour.
All righty, thank you very much. Okay, so we're going to have everybody move into the closed session Zoom. Give everybody a couple minutes to do that. Go ahead.
We need to ask for public comment.
Is there any public comment on our closed session?
Chair Sierra, there's no request for
Thank
public
you
comment.
so
Thank you.
much. All righty, let's head into closed session then. Thank you. out of closed session.
Chair and directors, today the board met in closed session to discuss 2 items, both conference with labor negotiators. The first item was for SBCAG employees. The second item was for the executive director. There are no reportable actions.
Thank you very much. Okay, we are moving on to the consent calendar. Is there any public comment on the, first of all, would any directors like to pull any items from the consent calendar? Seeing no hands waving, is there any public comment on the,
Chair Sierra, yes, we have one request to speak on item 6I, which is State Route 154 Safety Committee bylaws. Review and adopt the State Route 154 Safety Committee bylaws. And that's Mr. Scott Wins.
wonderful. Mr. Wentz, come on up.
Madam Chair, members of the board, Scott Wins representing Cars Are Basic. I saw this item just about an hour ago on the internet. And this is an item that I think needs to have strong guidelines. 154 is becoming a commercial route, whether the people that live in the valley want it or not. It has become that. The Alisal fire and the additional additions to the reservation and the casino have proven that. The fact that the concerns of a minority up there, and Cars Are Basic, Director Hartman probably knows, has been making a direct and significant push in the area to find out what the people in that valley want. And they want roads that work. They don't want bike paths narrowing down the streets. They don't want roundabouts in there. They've seen the absolute deleterious effect of the 154-246 roundabout. So it's our concern that the board give direction to this committee and state that it's a matter of efficiency, not just what a minority want when it comes to bike paths and slowing traffic down, because eventually it's going to come back and bite you. And the Alisal fire, it proved that, and the fire a couple of years ago that came through the valley really made that point. Thank you.
Thank you very much, sir. Any other public comment?
Chair Sierra, we have no more requests for public comment.
All righty. Any board discussion? If not, is there a motion?
Move approval of the balance, or of the entire administrative agenda.
Is there a second? All righty. Director Sierra makes the motion to second it. Roll call, please.
Director Williams? Hart? Hartman?
Aye.
Nelson? Levanino?
Aye.
Eurig?
Aye.
Julian?
Aye.
Osborne?
Aye.
Patino?
Aye.
Parodi?
Aye.
Clark?
Aye.
Murillo?
Aye.
And Chair Sierra.
Aye.
Motion passes 11-0.
Thank you very much. Madam Clerk, will you please read item 7 into the record?
Yes, ma'am. Item 7, COVID-19 vaccination and testing policy. 7A, adopt a COVID-19 vaccination and testing policy for all SBCAG workers. And 7B, authorize the executive director to take any necessary administrative actions to execute the board's direction.
Madam Chairperson, members of the board, thank you so much. This item was requested by Director Hartman to be placed on this agenda for your consideration. This is to adopt a vaccination and testing policy. We basically copied the policy that was identified for the county that was passed previously. Currently, we have the majority of our employees are already vaccinated and have shown proof of vaccination due to when we asked people, during the time when people didn't have to wear masks indoors, we made them show their proof of vaccination at that time so they didn't have to wear those masks. But now everybody's wearing those masks back again. we do have a couple employees who have not shown proof of vaccination, so this policy would basically apply to them. They can either choose to get vaccinated or they can choose to get tested every week, and that would be provided on work time, and we would provide the opportunity for them to get tested on a weekly basis prior to entering in any work environment. So with that, I'll leave it up to the board for their discussion. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Are there any questions of staff? I'm not seeing any hands up. Okay. My question, I think I asked you before, for the employees that are not vaccinated, the tests, SBCAG pays for those tests? The employees don't have to pay for those?
Yes, we're proposing, since it's only a couple employees, that we can manage it and pay for those testing until this changes. So,
And what is the cost of the tests?
Martha, do you have a cost associated with the test?
I do not, but the agencies that I researched, they're offering them for free.
Okay, thank you. Director Patino, question?
Yes, I do. What are there objections to those employees that we have? And are they religious objections?
There are in the policy, it does allow for folks to identify if they do have a religious or disability that precludes them from getting tested or getting vaccinated, so they can submit those declarations to me, and then we can determine from there. But I have not heard of any yet.
I guess my question then is, what is our objective in all of this? What if a person has already had COVID, brings you documentation, just like I have my vaccination card, that they are immune? It seems to me that we want all these people to be immune. So whether they've had COVID or whether they've had the vaccinations, what is the difference?
I'm not a medical doctor, so I don't know.
No, I know.
Yeah, so at this point in time, having COVID does, as far as I know, does not make you immune to getting COVID again.
Nor do the vaccinations, as we know.
Yeah.
All righty, thank you. Any other questions? Okay, do we have any public comment on this item?
Chair, so we have no public comment.
No public comment, okay. Board discussion? Director Hartman?
Well, I strongly support this. I think it's important to have consistency across the county. It's been shown that mandates do improve the vaccination rate, at least according to Dr. Ansorg, who I have a great deal of confidence in. As Director Kern reported, that's consistent with what he has to say, that if you've had COVID, it doesn't necessarily, that resistance doesn't last. And yes, that's true with vaccinations, but it appears only with older people or immunocompromised people. And that's why we now have the booster shots for those. So I think this is important, and I hope my fellow board members will vote with me.
Any other discussion? Director Hart?
Yeah, I agree with Director Hartman. The county has set this standard for its employees, and I think we're getting very good compliance. The facts are that folks who are in the hospital are much more likely to have been unvaccinated than vaccinated, and that's probably the bottom line to COVID interventions is, how can we keep people alive? And that differential, which is consistent across the country, is the most telling reason for people to get vaccinated. I think there's a lot of evolving science, and we don't really know for sure where things are, and can't say things with certainty. But those numbers are consistent, from community to community, state to state, and that they're telling us something. And if we're trying to protect people, the path still remains for people to get vaccinated, and vaccine mandates increase vaccinations, and that's the point.
All righty, thank you. I'm going to go to Director Perotti and then Director Lavignino.
Thank you, Chair. I support this. I strongly support this. The city of Goleta has moved forward in this direction, and I'm very proud that we're moving in that direction. So we've given our employees till the end of the month to make sure that they show us that they've been vaccinated. So maybe it's a little bit stricter than what you're proposing here, but I think that's what we have to do to keep everyone safe. So I will strongly support this. Thank you.
Thank you. Director Lavigno.
Well, as long as there's just like we have at the county, that there's an out, so it's not actually a vaccine mandate, the testing mandate. I think that's prudent. I wouldn't want to force the vaccination on anybody. So I can support what's being brought before us today.
Thank you. I see no other hands up. So was that a motion, Director Lavigno? Oh, I'm sorry.
Since Supervisor Hartman brought it, I'll let her make the motion.
Director Nelson has his hand up. I'm sorry, I don't see him.
Sorry.
Go ahead.
Sorry, I was having a hard time finding my button. Again, staying consistent. I oppose this this policy at the county. I will also oppose it here. I have stated for the record at the Board of Supervisors meeting, but we know that being vaccinated does not stop the spread necessarily completely. Our outbreak in the jail was actually from an unvaccinated employee. If the testing policy is in place, I really should think it should be across the board for all of the employees if we're really trying to stop spread through testing. I acknowledge that vaccines lead to less hospitalizations. I've been very clear on that, but I've also been clear that it's a decision that needs to be made for each individual with their doctor, and that they appreciate that risk. And I know there's a thought out there that mandates lead to more testing. I think now that we get to this ending period where there's a very smaller percentage, actually I think the mandates are counterproductive at some point. I think it's some people that are a little bit more independent thinking, don't want to be told to do things. I think they're more resistant when there's a mandate in place. And so, I would rather see more encouragement, education, and incentives instead of mandates. I think that's more appropriate. So I will be voting against it. Thank you.
All righty, thank you. Are there any other hands? I'm sorry, I didn't see you, Director Nelson. Is there anybody else? I don't see anybody else. All righty, Director Hartman.
So I move the recommended action in today's staff report A and B.
Second that motion.
Director Hart seconds the motion. Terry.
Director Williams? Hart? Hartman?
Aye.
Nelson?
No.
Levanino?
Aye.
Eurig?
Aye.
Julian?
Aye.
Osborne?
Aye.
Patino?
No.
Perotti?
Aye.
Clark?
Aye.
Murillo?
Aye.
And Chair Sierra.
Aye.
Motion passes 10-2.
Thank you very much. All righty, Madam Clerk, will you please read item 8 into the record?
Item 8, broadband. 8A, direct staff to present an item to each of the member jurisdictions requesting their participation and financial contribution to develop a broadband strategic plan. 8B, recommend a methodology to divide the costs among the jurisdictions.
All righty, Director Kern.
Yes, Madam Chairperson, members of the board, at your, I think it was a July meeting, you directed staff to form an ad hoc committee to discuss broadband. And at that time, we had direction to pursue a forum to talk about broadband and what the issues are and what we could possibly do and bring that back to the board. The ad hoc committee made up of Director Hartman, Director Nelson, Director Perotti, Director Patino, and Director Osborne had the first meeting, and there was some requests for additional information, and so we didn't make any recommendations at that meeting. In the second meeting, we had Dr. Bill Simmons come to our meeting. He's the executive director of the Broadband Consortium, and he gave a presentation on broadband and the need for a strategic plan and applying for additional funding to implement the strategic plan. So at that time, after that presentation, the ad hoc committee recommended that I bring another item back to the board to get direction to pursue a broadband strategic plan with the participation of the member jurisdictions, the county, and the 8 cities. And at that time, they requested that I begin outreach to the cities to see if they would like to participate. And there was also an item on the Board of Supervisors agenda the next day, and that presentation that Dr. Bill Simmons gave was also given to the Board of Supervisors. And subsequently, so I sent an email out to the cities, city managers asking if they were interested in participating in a strategic plan. They all responded, except for one didn't respond. They all responded in a positive that they wanted to participate. And I also asked if they were able to financially contribute, and they said depending on council's approval, that they felt that they could financially contribute to the effort. And so that information's before you. And then at their previous meeting, the Board of Supervisors also dedicated $200,000 of their ARPA funding to the broadband strategic planning effort. And then that would come back to the board for the Board of Supervisors for their official action to allocate that money. So at this point in time, I'm requesting direction from the board, because it is different from your original direction, to pursue a broadband strategic plan. The idea would be that we would contract with the broadband consortium to actually do the work and do the preparation of a plan, but that SBCAG staff would be involved in facilitating that discussion among the jurisdictions and the other various stakeholders that are out there that need to be involved in this discussion. This is a very exciting time to pursue this. I think the Broadband Consortium has been working on this effort for over 10 years, but now it seems to be the final point where we're all interested in identifying the need and wanting to make this effort move forward. So at this time, we're asking for direction from the board to present an item to the member jurisdictions, requesting their participation in the strategic plan and a financial contribution. I also asked the city managers their thoughts on how to divvy up the costs associated with such a plan amongst the cities. And I got various answers from the various respondents. But the handful of them also suggested population, because it's the simplest, and that seems to be what we do when we get into these financial sharing situations. So in the staff report, I included a table that identifies the share of the city's population amongst the cities. I did not include the county in that because they already allocated the $200,000 per their action on Tuesday. So the direction I'm asking for is, do you concur with this methodology? First of all, do you concur with me going to the cities and asking them for their participation? And if so, and the financial contribution identified in the staff report based on population. So thank you.
Thank you very much. We move on to questions for staff, and we're going to start with Director Perotti, and then Director Osborne, and then Director Nelson.
Well, thank you, Chair Sierra. I went into this committee not knowing very much about broadband, and it seemed a bit overwhelming at first. And so but it was really so informative to get Mr. Simpson on board. Thank you to Director Osborne for suggesting we have a conversation with him, because I felt like he really caught me up and really educated me. And I know a lot of our staff at the city participated and listened. And so I'm really excited about this and moving in this direction. I think it's time. I would say that if there is a jurisdiction that may have difficulty coming up with the money, I wouldn't want that to hold us up. I want to move forward with this. So I guess I have more of a comment, but I guess my question would be to Ms. Kern, will you be the one presenting, or would it be Mr. Simpson, or who would be presenting to each jurisdiction? And I think that's a perfect idea. It needs to be done.
My ideal answer to that question is both of us. So if
That'd be great.
Dr. Simmons is available, I want him
all right.
there because he's the technical expert. He knows the technology and the answers to the questions that everybody has. And so if he could be by my side, I want him there. So he's
Great.
also on the Zoom. So if you have any specific questions for him today, he can answer those as well.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you. Director Osborne?
Well, first, I want to thank my fellow directors who sat on the ad hoc. It is something to jump directly to the strategic plan, but it's long overdue, and SBCAG is the right home for this. It's been something that I've been working on since 2012 and knew Dr. Simmons through all that time. And we've been looking for a home for this strategic plan to come out of and be managed and brought forward, because that middle mile helps all of us. And if we don't work together and have a home for that moving forward, it won't happen for our singular cities to get our last mile done in an equitable manner. And so I really appreciate all of you for that. I appreciate Dr. Simmons coming quickly to the table and accelerating all of it. And I know he is very willing to be at as many of those council meetings as possible, because many of us have councils that are not quite up to speed, and that's okay. This is a time to do it. But moving faster to a strategic plan is really important. We've had so many sessions from different organizations over the year talking about where we need to be, and what we need to do is take that next step. So again, I think this is the right direction, and I'm committed to bringing my council forward to financially committing it. And I agree with Director Perotti about let's not exclude somebody. If they can't afford what's proposed, whatever they can contribute, we should welcome them to the table, and those of us that can should. So thank you all.
Thank you. We're going to go to Director Nelson, then Director Hartman, then Director Patino. Director
great.
Nelson.
Yeah, so I just wanted to maybe inform the discussion. I believe the county, we've used our American Rescue Plan Act funding here. So as cities take a look at these costs and with ever increased demands upon us all, I know budgets are tight, especially with revenues. And I know the county has got in a little bit different position than many of our cities. But I believe this is American Rescue Plan Act compliant, if you will. And so I just want to make sure that as we deliberate that's part of the conversation. And I don't want to steal Mayor Patino's thunder, but I know we're working on middle mile and connecting, but she brought up, I thought, a very important point yesterday at the State of the City about the affordability. And I just wanted to see if there's an affordability piece on as part of the strategic plan.
Director Kern, is there an affordability?
I have heard that issue as well, affordability and literacy and access to even technology on their end. So, Bill, do you want to? The scope is what we decided to be. So go ahead, Bill.
Yeah, no, I'll just mention a couple. We had our advisory meeting this morning, and we had Paul Chunet from Cuyama, who was part of this discussion this morning, asked the same question. And, we were talking to a number of telecoms. It's very hard to expect a telecom necessarily to invest to take fiber all the way from the valley up to Cuyama. And so there is this role for this middle mile for the public sector to do it. But in doing that, the affordability then drops, because once the investment's made, the fiber is there, it becomes more affordable. That's one issue. The second issue is, even if it is there, we had Charter, for example, there this morning, and they're saying we have, in many cases, fiber, not fiber, but service in high rates into these communities, but they're not being there's the subscription rates not being picking up. And so the question then becomes, why is that occurring? And so there's a multiple aspects to it. Number one is getting the connection established. And then number two, going into these communities, perhaps with some kind of equity intervention where you work with partners in these neighborhoods to really figure out what it's going to take to get the connection made. The resources provided through the Emergency Broadband Act, in which it is affordable, and the people over the hump of literacy. And so we have to approach these communities using trusted agents, bridge builders, take all the programs that are available, and then just immerse all the participants with these kinds of resources. And hopefully we'll be able to get exactly where we need to go to get 100% connected, which is the state's goal.
And that's my goal too. But I guess the question is, would that be a part of the strategic plan? Would there be some section specifically on pricing and or at least maybe strategies on how we
want the municipalities, we want the county and its jurisdiction areas to be shovel ready. And so those neighborhoods will be identified. The funds and the funding resources for those neighborhoods to do this work will be identified. And hopefully the ownership will be within the municipalities to apply for the funds as they're coming and be ready with those applications. The rulemaking is happening now. We want to be ready with these areas identified, with the applications filled out when the rules have been finalized.
Thank you. I'm supportive.
All righty, thank you. Director Hartman, then Director Patino.
Thank you. The consortium has an overarching principle that I very much agree with: internet for all. Like our roads, broadband should be available to everyone. And what I've learned at SBCAG is, unless you have a plan, you don't get the money. And so what we're asking at this point is that everybody contribute to the plan. And I think it'll be a much stronger plan if we have all jurisdictions involved. And then there's not only federal money, but a great deal of state money. So we'll have other sources to help us fund the actual implementation of the plan, but we really need to work together and work quickly to get the plan. And fortunately, we're lucky because the consortium has done an enormous amount of work already. And so we're able now to add our jurisdictions imprimatur and also what additional knowledge we can bring to the table. So I just think everything is coming together, and I'm really grateful that SBCAG is kind of taking the lead here. I think it is the perfect organization to do that.
Thank you very much. Director Patino?
Yes, I think this is sort of 100% enthusiastically unanimous on this, and it's really exciting. I think it's exciting for all of us because we've had to educate ourselves on the broadband. It's important to note, and as I said yesterday, we've completed the fiber optic loop in Santa Maria, and we don't have a problem with the accessibility. Again, it's the affordability that concerns us. I wouldn't want to see any community not have the ability to be part of this also. And as we have the competition, that is going to drive, I think, the cost down. But I'm thinking also that perhaps take 100,000 and divide that in half, which is between Santa Barbara and Santa Maria, because we've already completed that fiber optic loop, and then do the rest by population. But I certainly don't want to let this go. I think there's always room for compromise on getting this done, but we certainly want to be a part of this.
Thank you very much. Anybody else? Oh, Director Julian, and then Director Uhrig.
I think for Community Guadalupe, we really need this as do other areas like Cuyama, and we're very supportive of this process, and we'll pick up our share of what needs to happen regarding this decision. So thank you.
Thank you. Director Uhrig, then Director Patino again.
Thank you, Chair. And looking at the list of the names, and then of course the county has already committed 200,000. My question is, and I know the Shumash have been really supportive of the coalition as it's going forward with offering facilities and such, but is there a way that there could be some type of monetary compensation or contribution from the Shumash, being that, with them being a federally recognized tribe, that population could be somehow added in, and maybe that would help some of the other communities that may have difficulty. Just a thought.
Do you have an answer to that one?
I would ask the board to include that in their motion for direct staff to approach the Chumash tribe for their contribution.
Okay, thank you. Director Patino and then Director Hartman. Did you have something else, Alice?
No, I put my hand down finally. Thank you.
Thank you. Director Hartman.
Another question about the Chumash. I believe if they are part of our consortium, then they're entitled to special money, or it may add points, or it's a very, they're very strong partners for this effort. So we want to have them involved, and they have been involved already, a leader in this.
They have identified, they have been participating in kind as well. So they have been at the table. They already applied for grants for the San Ynez Valley as well. So yes, I think they bring a lot of clout when you submit applications. So they are definitely at the table already at this time.
Thank you. I don't see any hands up. I had a quick question. The contributions here are based on population, and yet broadband is lines in the ground. So the bigger the city, the more lines, the more expense. Was it just kind of unanimous? I know it's easier to go with population, but
Yeah, it was a very difficult puzzle to
bet.
solve,
I bet.
because one of the city managers suggested that we divvy it up based on internet subscribers, but that seemed to be counterproductive because you want to get those subscribers that aren't subscribing yet. So and another thought, maybe just a large city or a small city, flat rate. Or, so again, that's why I'm asking for direction from the board, because I think you can split this any way you want. And I just, I'm trying to get to the finish line. So however you want to get there, I was at a loss, so population seemed to be the fallback formula that we've used in the past. But if the board thinks that there's a better way to do this, I'm more than happy to oblige.
okay, thank you. Director Osborne?
Margie, for clarification, this is about funding to help fund the strategic plan. So for me, I think the population estimate is the best way to move forward. When we start talking actual implementation of actual lines and where they're going in the ground and helping with that burden, I think we'll definitely need to go with a different model. But since this is helping to pay for contracting to put together the strategic plan, that's probably why you went with the basic model of via population, correct?
Yes.
Thank you, Director Osborne. Any other questions for staff? Director Hart.
I don't have a question, but I have a comment. Just if it helps some of the other cities, I think it's important to recognize, the county believes in this effort so much that, our $200,000 contribution far exceeds the unincorporated population calculation for the county, because we wanted to make sure that there was momentum for this. And so that helps to subsidize the effort of the cities in being participants in this. And so I hope that would encourage folks to find the way to dig into their local government coffers and help assist this financially.
I do agree the county has really stepped up here. Thank you. All righty, I don't see any hands up in the air. Do we have any public comment on this item?
Chair Sierra, we have no request for public comment.
All righty, then I bring it back to the board for discussion and direction. And a motion. Director Hart.
I'd move the staff recommendation, and is that sufficient to give staff direction on how to
And include in the formula by population, if you can include that.
with the funding formula by population?
Director Hartman.
And the Chumash as a partner?
Yes, thank you.
Just a clarification, would you like me to pursue request financial participation from the Chumash?
Yeah, I think it'd just be,
Yeah.
They have been leaders in this space, and I think they would want to be involved, so just asking them if they'd like to financially contribute.
Okay.
That'll be another thing that's outside of the percentage allocation, because the percentage would be a tiny, tiny number, but their generous participation in the past, I think, is a good indicator that they'll be supportive with
Okay.
this request too.
Okay, thank you.
Second.
All righty, we've had a motion by Director Hart, a second by Director Hartman. Terry.
Director Williams? Hart?
Aye.
Hartman?
Aye.
Nelson?
Aye.
Lavanino?
Aye.
Eurig?
Aye.
Julian?
Aye.
Osborne?
Aye.
Patino?
Aye.
Parodi,
Aye.
Clark,
Aye.
Mario,
Aye.
and Chair Sierra.
Aye.
Motion passes 12-0.
Yay. Wonderful. Would you please read item 9 into the record?
Thank you, Chair Sierra. Item 9 is the draft 2022 Regional Transportation Improvement Program. 9A, review and comment on the 2022 Transportation Draft Regional Transportation Improvement Program, programming proposal for this submittal to the California Transportation Commission. 9B, provide a recommendation on programming of funding for Highway 166 Highway 1 project in Guadalupe.
Thank you very much. And we have Jackie Mata here to give us the presentation.
Yes, thank you, Chair. Good morning, directors. So today I'll be presenting the draft 2022 Regional Transportation Improvement Program, also known as the RTIP. And the PowerPoint I am presenting includes content taken from the staff report. So today I am looking for your review and comment on the draft 2022 RTIP for submittal to the CTC, and take action on Part B, which is to provide direction on the programming of funding for Highway 166 Highway 1 project in Guadalupe. So some background on the RTIP is that SBCAG must submit an RTIP to the California Transportation Commission, or the CTC, by December 15th for inclusion in the 2022 State Transportation Improvement Program, also known as the STIP. The RTIP identifies projects selected by SBCAG that are to be funded with our county share of regional STIP funds. And it covers a 5-year period. This cycle, it is fiscal years 2022-23 to 26-27. And the document is updated biannually. This slide shows the 2022 RTIP development schedule. So the RTIP was presented to TTAC earlier this month on October 7th. And the final RTIP will return to TTAC in November. And then November 18th, scheduled for SBCAG board approval of the 2022 RTIP. And then after that, the final RTIP will be submitted to CTC by the September 15th deadline. All the RTIPs will then be included in the final 2022 STIP, which is scheduled for approval by the CTC in March of 2022. So staff is recommending that the new funding be programmed to the SBCAG's Planning, Programming, and Monitoring, or PPM. SBCAG is permitted to program $1.188 million for this purpose over the 5-year period, but $709,000 would be in new funding available for fiscal years 24-25 to 26-27. And these are the last 3 fiscal years of the 5-year period. The second project would be Highway 101 HOV project. Staff recommends the remaining amount, which is the $6.445 million, be programmed to this project per board adopted the Measure A strategic plan. So this is the second action that I'm looking for your recommendation for. This is for funding for the Highway 166 corridor. Per board direction in 2012, $1.251 million in funding previously identified for improvements on Highway 166 was reserved for projects in the 166 corridor to match Measure A Highway 166 safety project funding. These were funds that had previously lapsed in the STIP, and it was the board's direction at the time that when the funds were to be reprogrammed, that they would be assigned to projects on the western segment of the corridor, so between Santa Maria and Guadalupe, since that's where the lapsed funds originated from. So staff has identified 2 options for meeting the prior board commitment. Option 1 would be to program the $1.251 million in RTIP funding to the project. Or option 2 is to release $1.251 million from the Highway 101 HOV Regional Surface Transportation Program, or RSTP reserve funds. So option 1 would require requesting the CTC include the project in SBCAG's RTIP, since it's not currently in the RTIP, and we would need to request state-only funding. Option 2 doesn't require the project to be added to the RTIP, and RSTP funding complements the current use of Measure A for the project, with how the project is being implemented by SBCAG with consultants. So due to the requirements and actions required for projects using RTIP funds, SBCAG staff recommends option 2. And then lastly, per project cost savings for the right-of-way phase of the US 101 HOV project and San Joaquin Council of Governments RTIP, SBCAG can program $2.665 million in new capacity to the 101 HOV project as part of SJCOG's 2022 RTIP. So staff recommends that the 2.665 in cost savings be programmed to the 101 HOV Segment 4D North project to fund construction capital in fiscal year 22-23. And so that concludes my presentation. I'd be happy to take any questions.
Thank you very much. Are there any questions? I'm looking. Director Hart.
Could you refresh our memory about the San Joaquin funds transfer? There's a lot of history in that, and I'm hazy myself on the details. Can you go back in time and tell us how that money began?
Yes, of course.
And are we exhausting that source now by this action? Maybe that's the more relevant question.
So yeah, through the chair, I'm not exactly sure what year it was, but a couple years during Prop 1B, SBCAG didn't have a project lined up for the local partnership program. And so those funds were given to SJCOG, and in return, they gave us STIP funds for the 101 HOV project for the right-of-way phase. And so those cost savings are coming back to us because that original amount was the local partnership program, Prop 1B.
Thank you for that history. And then is this the last allocation of that amount, or is there remaining funding in SACOG's?
Yes, I believe so.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you very much. Director Nelson.
Yeah, my question was similar to Director Hart's on that. My understanding is that our tip for the last few years, we've been just pushing that towards the 101 widening, right? That's been the practice. And prior to the 101 widening, that was available regionally throughout the county for regional transportation programs, but we've made that our highest priority moving forward. Do I understand that correctly?
Yes, that's correct. So per the adopted Measure A strategic plan, we're prioritizing the 101 project to receive those funds until
so we're
it's
not
completed.
We're not putting other projects in there so they don't compete with the 101. Is that my understanding?
I'm sorry, I couldn't hear your question.
So we're trying not to compete with the 101, right? With other regional projects. Because I mean, there's a lot of regional projects, a lot of regional needs throughout the county. But we're putting this to the top as we have for the last 5-10 years here, right?
Yes.
So do we expect once we get through this RTIP period that we'll begin to add new RTIP, regional projects? I mean, is this kind of our last run on the RTIP funding for just exclusivity to the 101?
Through the chair, Chair Nelson, yes, SBCAG staff is looking forward to the day when we do not have to program future STIP money towards the 101 project, and we can do an exercise where we look at the remaining Measure A named projects, which notably includes projects in North County that still require outside funding aside from the Measure A project to be delivered. So once we get through the 101 project, then that's going to be our shift in focus, is looking at how we can deliver the remaining named projects, including those in North County. So, what year? That's a great question. My fingers are crossed that that'll be after the strategic plan. We're looking at fiscal year 28 in terms of being able to utilize STIP funding for the remaining named projects.
Well, this is kind of a rub that I've had for a long time. I've talked to my public works director about when Measure A took place, that the county contribution was going to be the 140 million that we had done, and the sole commitment of all our TIP funds exclusively through the life of the project was not fully contemplated among stakeholders back then. I know that we've had to do that to deliver this project, and I'm still going to be supportive of this RTIP, but I am going to put on the record that if I'm still in a seat 5 years from now, I expect to have other RTIP projects on there, regional projects that we're working on. We need to start to, I understand the project's not done yet. Totally get it. But we've given some more, and then we give a little extra. And it's time that we start to make sure that that's known, that we're not, the entire county is not just an open checkbook that we're going to continue just to fund at the expense of the rest of the county, which is, falling behind. Most jurisdictions have these funds programmed to regional projects that are their responsibility. We continue to fund someone else's project, which is really important to us, and that's why we've gone above and beyond, and we will continue to go above and beyond. But there's a ton of projects. There's a lot of lives lost in places that are of this county that aren't funded, and so I hope that this is the last time that we see an RTIP plan before us that doesn't have other projects. And I'm actually supportive of keeping Guadalupe in there if that helps expedite that project.
All righty. Thank you very much. Any other questions? Thanks. Do we have any public comment on this item?
Chair Sierra, we have one request for public comment. Mr. Scott Wentz with Cars Are Basic.
Please. Welcome back.
Madam Chair, members of the board, Scott Wentz representing Cars Are Basic. We have a number of supporters up in Cuyama area, ranchers and so forth, and they are very, very concerned about 166. And we really urge the board to put as much pressure on as you possibly can to get funding to help smooth out that road. There's been a lot of accidents up in that area. And that in part has to do with the ranching. They have some large trucks and so forth, the agricultural up in that area. Plus the fact that 166 is a bypass. Whenever the Grapevine gets shut down or 101 gets shut down, the traffic comes over there. That's number one. Number two, I'm a bit confused. It seems to me that you're getting back money to this project because of negotiations that were done in past. One of the objections to our objection over the San Ysidro and the Olive Mill roundabouts was the fact that they'd be losing money if it was delayed. If you're getting this money back, then there's no reason not to reconsider this. I talked with mutual aid people after the Thomas fire. I talked with mutual aid people just last week from the Alisal fire. They don't want to see any roundabouts on any of these roads because they have objected to them. They say it's impossible to get their vehicles through. And if you'll remember, after the Thomas fire, the screams were loud and clear that the Hot Springs roundabout was in fact an impediment to the access to that area. And if it had decided to turn around and come down through Montecito, you wouldn't be able to get trucks up there. So thank you.
Thank you, sir. All righty. Any other public comment?
Chair Sierra, that's all requests for public comment we have on this item.
Thank you very much. I'm bringing it back to the board. Director Julian?
Yes, just a local perspective. Yesterday from Guadalupe was going into Santa Maria to go to the show at about 4:30. And those are familiar with Santa Maria, between Guadalupe and Santa Maria at Bonita Lateral, the cars are backed up from Bonita Lateral all the way into Santa Maria. And, given the amount of agriculture that's growing in SLO County. Anything that we need, that we can do to improve our, the 166 between Santa Maria and Guadalupe is very important. That's my comment.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Any other discussion? Any other? I don't see hands raised. A motion, perhaps?
I'll move the staff recommendations.
Thank you, sir.
Second.
Thank you. Director Hart, Director Hartman. Roll call.
Is it the option 1 or the option 2? Option 2?
Staff recommendation.
Okay, thank you. Director Williams.
Aye.
Hart.
Aye.
Hartman.
Aye.
Nelson.
I apologize, guys. I was trying to get back on. I don't understand what the motion is. If it's, can we get clarification? Are we including Guadalupe or are we not? I didn't understand which was the staff recommendation.
We are including Guadalupe with staff recommendation option 2.
Okay, I apologize for misunderstanding. Aye.
Thank you. Levanino.
Aye.
Eurig.
Aye.
Julian.
Aye.
Osborne.
Aye.
Catino.
Aye.
Parodi.
Aye.
Clark.
Aye.
Mario.
Aye.
And Chair Sierra.
Aye.
Motion passes 13-0.
Thank you very much. Madam Clerk, would you please read item 10 into the record?
Thank you. Item 10 is the Clean Air Express operating contract. 10A, approve and authorize the chair to execute the agreement with American Star Trailways for Clean Air Express operations and maintenance for the period October 30th, 2021 to June 30th, 2025, for an amount not to exceed $5,350,000. 10B, approve and authorize the executive director to make route changes pursuant to Agreement Section 7, route changes. 10C, approve and authorize the executive director to make immaterial amendments in accordance with Agreement Section 44, immaterial amendments.
Thank you very much. Mr. Spalding.
Good morning, Madam Chair, members of the board. Scott Spalding, Rail and Transit Director. We have sort of a two-part item. I want to cover the Clean Air Express operating contract recommendation first. Just a quick recap. We've brought this item to the North County Committee twice and given them an update on where we are. We performed an RFP process over the summer. We had a panel that included a couple of different member agencies. We received 3 proposals, which was encouraging for us. We're a little unsure about that given the nature of the service, but there was a unanimous recommendation by the panel to recommend awarding the contract to American Star, who's our incumbent contractor. They actually operated the service for us some time ago and then started back up again in 2018. There is a significant cost advantage amongst the 3 proposals. There's a table in the staff report that outlines that. But I do, I'm going to pause there because I want to talk a little bit about, it is a higher contract rate and that does have implications for the future in terms of the financial, challenges facing the service. But I'd like to just pause there and see if there's any questions about the contract recommendation.
Any questions? Oh, Director Murillo. Oh, I'm sorry, that's mine. Okay. I don't see any questions. Please continue.
Okay, thank you, Madam Chair. The second part of this is, in fact, relates to kind of an early preview or just putting a mile marker down on the impact of a couple of different things that are happening with the service. The first is, now that we've gone out through a competitive process, we are seeing it's about an 18% cost increase in the contract rate. We did expect, just like everything else seems like in the world, costs are going up. So we did expect some level of cost increase. But really the most significant challenge that's facing the Clean Air Express at the moment is the fall in ridership as a function of the pandemic. We're at about, a year and a half later, we're at about 50% ridership right now from what we were pre-COVID. And the Clean Air Express, like a handful of other services really in the country, is so highly dependent on fare revenue for financial stability that it's a much more significant hit to a service like this than it is to a service that doesn't have that same reliance on fare revenue. And so, you know, we're not in a dire situation in terms of the next 1 or 2 years, but we think that our, you know, idea, there's a table in the staff report that's taken from the short-range transit plan the board adopted 2 years ago that outlines a couple of different scenarios for the future, and one of them is to raise fares. We did put that on hold due to the pandemic. We believe, and I believe that the North County Committee has concurred that we're overdue for a fare increase. It's been around, I think at this point, maybe 11 years or so since we had a fare increase. But the other aspect of a potential new funding source would be to become eligible for federal funding under the FTA 5307 program, which we're going to have to wait, you know, 1, 2, maybe 3 years to see how the rules are going to shake out. But under current rules, if the urbanized area in the South exceeds 200,000, like most of us expect it to, then SBCAG would become eligible for a significant amount, at least with respect to this service, of federal funding. So I think what we wanted to do is just outline the fact that we're aware we're going to be monitoring these challenges, and that we're going to be potentially, depending on how ridership recovers over the next year or so, coming back to starting with the North County Committee with an update. Probably want to update our short-range transit plan with a new updated financial transaction. And just to reiterate, pre-COVID, we had 13 daily trips, round trips from North County, and we're currently operating 10. We just launched the 10th one serving UCSB at the beginning of this month. And I'm, you know, not really forecasting any additional service in the near term. We'll probably, you know, operate those 10 trips and just see how ridership's going. But I think with that, I'd be happy to answer any questions. We're not asking for any action on this particular aspect of the item. Just wanted to bring the board up to date as to kind of where we are today and where we might be in the future.
Thank you very much. We've got questions. Director Hart.
Yeah, thanks for the update on ridership. That helps frame the discussion for the future. And it occurs to me that you know, there's kind of a captive audience for the Clean Air Express. Riders that aren't riding now but used to ride seem to be good targets for individualized marketing to find out, you know, what exactly is it? Has your job structure changed? You know, or are you just finding the traffic is less and so you're driving more? Just it'd be good to have Traffic Solutions really focus in on this challenge and understand, you know, that. I don't think we have any data from anybody else, anywhere else, about this aspect of transportation and, you know, what the pandemic means for the future. So it'd be really helpful, I think, for all of us for long-term planning purposes, because clearly traffic has increased back to a level much higher than a return to, you know, the 50% level that pre-COVID or pre-economic recovery from COVID. So I'd love to see more about that.
All righty, thank you. Any other questions? I don't see anybody. Okay, public comment?
Chair Sierra, we have no public comment.
Okay, closing public comment, bringing it back for discussion. We do need to make a motion to approve. It looks like all 3 items. Director Hart?
Just for the purposes of discussion, I'd like to, you know, bring up the issue of MTD's participation in the Clean Air Express. And I know they have chosen not to compete in this round of funding, but I think it's really important that we continue the dialogue with them for the future. The increased operating cost from the private sector operators, while American Star is a deal compared to the other operators, it is an increase. And I think that, you know, the operating costs for MTD still remain very attractive as an operator for this service. So we need to bring that conversation to a head, and that maybe a year, maybe staff can convene a conversation with the North County transit operators and MTD to build toward a consensus for the future. You know, I know we have the option in this contract at some point in time to choose to go a different direction even during the term of this contract. But we appreciate American Star, you know, doing this work. They do a great job, and they'll be a valuable partner. But we also need to be thinking about the future. And if this ridership trend, is something that we have to deal with. We're going to have to figure out ways to reduce cost, and looking at MTD as an operator is one of those options. So I'd like that to be part of the next time we bring this item forward, to have some formal action to have the SBCAG board go that direction.
Thank you, sir. I've got a hand raised, Director Williams, Director Perotti, and Director Murillo. Did you want to say something?
I was just going to second the motion.
Okay.
Happy to hear discussion.
There we go. Director Williams and then Director Perotti.
Well, I want to speak in support of the idea that we need to help shape the possibility of a public bid on this service, both to rescue us from potential or to diminish potential cost increases, but I think to facilitate the best possible ridership we could have on all the services. I think connectivity between services would be maximized if we have the same operator, essentially. And I think that's sort of just unexplored potential. I don't think we should be daunted by the financial issues, though, with the service, because the very fact that its success, i.e. how good of a fare box return it has, is the very reason why it's had such a financial hit. And I agree also that we need to drill down on what do we need to do to make it these riders that left come back. Is it differences in schedule? Is it differences in the operation itself? We need to understand that better.
Thank you. Director Perotti and then Director Nelson.
Thank you. I will agree with Director Hart and Williams on what they just said. But, I being on the MTD board myself, I know that, I would agree that you can come back in about a year and look and have a conversation with MTD. I know they might be interested, but it's based on drivers, and based on services that they can provide. And in a year, I think, is an appropriate time to see where they're at. So I would support, at first I thought this is a long contract, but now that I see that 120 days notice, you could get out of the agreement. So I feel a little bit better about that, but thank you.
Thank you. Director Nelson.
I just have a question. Was MTD prohibited under some type of bidding process from being a part of it to this point? Or I guess I'm just not educated in how that process works. I think that's what we're asking them, maybe to invite them to give us a proposal in the future, but it would have been impossible for them to have been a part of this original bidding process with American Star and Coach and others.
It's my understanding that there was no restriction from that would have stopped MTD or any other public transit provider from submitting a proposal. Public agencies are a little bit different in terms of relationships with an MPO like SBCAG. SBCAG is the transit agency that operates the Clean Air Express. And so we would actually, it's my understanding, correct me if I'm wrong, but that we would not have to have a competitive procurement to have a contract with MTD as a public operator. We've done that in the past with the Valley Express service that was not competitively bid. So if MTD is able to get to a place where they feel comfortable being able to operate the service for SBCAG, I don't think that we would have to do another RFP process. We could develop a contract with them that their board would find acceptable.
Great. Well, that's helpful. I mean, what I think a couple of my colleagues had mentioned, having the same operator, once you got down to South Coast, to be able to continue on those operators and have that connectivity makes a ton of sense. But at the same time, we got to make sure that we're being fiscally responsible and that we're keeping those costs low so that we can continue to have this excellent fare box recovery for the Clean Air Express. So anyway, I'm supportive.
All righty, thank you. Any other comments? Director Hart.
I'll make a motion to approve the staff recommendations ABC and then also ask SBCAG staff to come back with us, to us, when we formally adopt the contract to have a proposal to do outreach with MTD to have a discussion about them potentially being an operator of the service in collaboration with our North County Transit operators.
Second.
Thank you, sir. And we've got a motion by Director Hart, a second by Director Williams. And Mario.
Madam Chair, I just wanted to just make sure that people understand part of this is fiscal conservatism. My understanding is MTD's, even their heightened operating costs because of COVID is less than these operating costs. And that's part of the motivation.
Thank you, sir. Terry?
Director Williams.
Aye.
Hart.
Aye.
Hartman.
Aye.
Nelson.
Aye.
Bevanino.
Aye.
Eurig.
Aye.
Julian.
Aye.
Osborne.
Aye.
Patino.
Aye.
Perotti.
Aye.
Clark.
Aye.
Mario.
Aye.
And Chair Sierra.
Aye.
Motion passed 13-0.
Thank you very much. Moving on to our 1-minute reports. As always, I will start with Director Murillo.
I was just going to raise my hand. Thank you.
I beat you.
So we have a project, our Lower East Side connectivity active transportation planning effort, and it's building a pedestrian bridge over Highway 101, so connecting the east side to the waterfront. And we have public engagement meetings, one of them virtual on Monday the 25th at 5:30, October 25th, and then an in-person one in front of the Franklin Center, that's Saturday, October 30th at 10 in the morning. So we're trying to gauge public support for that. We assume there will be support. So it'll be bike and footbridge and bike bridge, of course. And then I attended as vice chair the Coast Rail Coordinating Council meeting. It didn't get on the agenda, Chair, but I'll just give a quick report. And then if you need to put it on next month's agenda, if people look for that report. So that was held October 15th. There was an update on some layover sites. So one on the Central Coast and one in Goleta, our sister city. And UP is doing some site visits on those layover sites. We had an update from our legislative lobbyist, Gus Curry. There's funding coming down for climate resiliency and infrastructure, with the focus on supplementing the alternative transportation grant program. So that's good news. We talked about electrification of trains. So that's exciting. And then the Coast Rail Coordinating Council decided to apply for a TIRSIP grant. And that's the end of my report. Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you very much. Director Perotti?
Thank you, Chair Sierra. Well, I felt today it was appropriate for me to give an update since I am on the MTD board. So I am going to give a brief update on, for the month of September, MTD ridership on K through 12 service, which consists of 15 buses in the AM and also in the PM. It was 81% of pre-pandemic levels. Additionally, lines running parallel with the 101 returned to 78% of their ridership. In total, ridership was 63% of pre-pandemic levels, despite 8 of MTD's 28 lines remaining suspended and 3 being partially restored due to the labor shortage. Santa Barbara City College has not fully returned to on-campus learning, which was evident in ridership on the lines directly serving the campus. So I thought an update on them would be appropriate. I do on speaking from the city, I'll be real quick. The city installed its new Beam electric vehicle ARC solar powered charger on Thursday, October the 14th. The EV are an off-grid I don't know if you've ever seen it, but it's very cool looking. It's an off-grid charge point, dual port EV charging station. And the EV ARC generates it and stores its own clean electricity and delivers the electricity to power EVs. It was fully funded by the Santa Barbara County Air Pollution Control District, Infrastructure Program, and California Office of Emergency Service Funds. So there was no cost to the city for the equipment. The EV ARC is the first such unit installed in Santa Barbara County, and it's a non-grid tiered charger. So the deployment required no electrical work, no construction, and it won't generate a utility bill. The equipment will be available for during grid outages, and also includes an emergency power panel that can be used for first responders. And the system has been activated to allow the public to access charging at no cost and enjoy driving in sunshine. So, that was exciting. We have a couple other things, but I won't go on. But since I don't know if this is the appropriate time to speak to something regarding Caltrans, is that, or do I wait till Caltrans gives their report?
Why don't you wait until Mr. Eads gives his report?
Okay. All right, I'll do that. Thank you
very
so much.
Thank you. Director Hartman and then Director Patino.
I have a question, not a report. And I heard on the radio that Amtrak is adding another route, and that it'll be operating 7 days a week and more evenly. So I just wondered if that affects our lane and train, and it sounded pretty exciting.
The Pacific Surfliner is restoring its 4th trip on Monday. Pre-COVID, it operated 5 round trips to Santa Barbara County, 3 to Goleta, and 2 to San Luis, so 5 total. That was reduced to 3 last year, and they're introducing the 4th trip on Monday, starting on Monday, with the goal of reintroducing the 5th trip sometime next year. The trip that they're also doing some schedule changes. The state's been doing a lot of rail schedule planning with respect to the Surfliner, and one of the things the state's moving towards with all 3 of the intercity rail corridors is implementing what's called a clock-facing schedule, which is the trains leave at the same time on the hour from the same station on a daily basis, 7 days a week. So they're making some minor modifications to what the pre-existing schedule was, and that's also, they're also implementing that on Monday as well. So we're hoping that the additional trip is not going to be operating during peak hour starting on Monday. So we are hoping that we can work with Losan to make sure that that 5th trip does reintroduce the peak hour trip just like it was operating before COVID. And that schedule will look a little bit different based on this new clock-facing schedule that the state is implementing statewide. Be closer to an 8 a.m. arrival in Santa Barbara, which I think is better than the 6:45 that it was before. So, but we're certainly working with Director Hart as our representative on the Losan board to try to make that happen.
Thank you. All righty, Director Patino.
Yes, last Thursday we had our ribbon cutting on the North Blosser Road improvements, and they're just great. It was like a raceway there, and now it looks beautiful, and the bike path is wonderful. We had bikers out there. We had all kinds of people from our roads department and from Caltrans. So if you get a chance, just go to Main Street and go north on Main, and you can see it. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Anybody else want to brag about their district or their city for a whole minute? Okay, Director Uhrig?
Yes, I'll try to brag a little bit on Solvang. Just for some of the events that we just have had in the city. On the Saturday, October 9th, we hosted the Solvang Classic Car Show, which normally is the Wheels and Windmills, but with COVID protocols in place in August, they decided to move it to October. So that turned out to be very successful for that weekend. This past Saturday, the 16th, we just hosted the Rose Parade Princesses. The chamber and our mayor pro tem put together programs for them to be able to be participants in. It's seemed to be a kind of a win-win for us. They're going to be providing some community service and events coming up in the future. This coming Saturday, just FYI for everyone, we have the Wine Country Half Marathon, which will cause delays through Solvang on, not unusual for a weekend, but from 7 a.m. to 11, where there will be a detour in place while the downtown of Mission Drive Highway 246 is closed. And then lastly, on the 29th, Friday and Saturday, the 29th and 30th of this month, we'll be hosting our annual haunted house in Solvang. And I'll save my Caltrans for the Caltrans report. Thank you.
Thank you very much. I don't see anybody else, so before I move on, I'm just going to throw in real quick that November 12th through the 14th, Buellton is hosting Fall Fest on Avenue of Flags. Ferris wheel, lots of rides, and local businesses will be out, nonprofits. So should you happen to be driving through 101 and you pass Buellton, you might want to stop and just grab something to eat and enjoy. Anyway, thank you very much. We're going to move on to our executive director's report.
Yes, Madam Chair, members of the board, I need to apologize. Today is International Shakeout Day.
Oh.
And at 10:21, we were supposed to go under our desks and protect ourselves from the earthquake.
I'm so glad
And
we
I
didn't.
forgot to remind the chair that it was International Shakeout Day. So please work with your cities to practice their evacuation procedures and policies, and remind people that, you know, there's potentially an earthquake at any point in time here, and we need to be prepared. I want to thank the mayor of Santa Maria. I had the pleasure of attending the State of the City event sponsored by the Santa Maria Chamber of Commerce yesterday. Director Patino did an excellent job giving an overview of the health of the city and all the great work that their employees are doing, and it was a pleasure to attend that event. So thank you for hosting that. I also want to let folks know we had to reschedule our Measure A Citizens Oversight Committee meeting. We had a delay with the annual audits, and we needed to have those audits reviewed by the technical group prior to presenting them to the Oversight Committee. So that meeting has been scheduled for November 9th at the Willows Restaurant at the Chumash Casino. This will be an in-person meeting, so this is kind of exciting. We have a lot of new members, so we get to meet them in person for after a year and a half of not meeting them. So we're looking forward to that as staff. And finally, I'd like to take a moment to honor the memory of Joe Centino, who passed away last week. Director Centino had served on the SBCAG Board of Directors from 2002 to 2010, and he was chair of the board in 2006. Director Centino had contributed to the success of SBCAG, including completing many projects that will benefit the county residents for many, many years, including the passage of Measure A, advocacy of improvements on Route 166, east and west, and widening of the Santa Maria Bridge, and enhancing the local and rural maintenance programs. Our thoughts are with his family during their time of grieving. So thank you.
Thank you very much. Okay, Caltrans report. Mr. Eads.
Thank you, Madam Chair, members of the board. Again, Scott Eads here with you today. I've got a few items. I have one new item, and then I wanted to give updates on a few others. So first, related to the item earlier in the agenda about broadband, Caltrans has actually been approved to implement a broadband middle mile project near New Cayuma on Highway 66. It's actually in San Luis Obispo County, but I know it relates to communities on 166 that are adjacent to Santa Barbara County. So it's from New Cayuma to the Kern County line. It's about 12.5 miles in length, and the estimated cost is $4.3 million. We anticipate beginning construction in August of 2024. And this is related to a larger program of Caltrans being selected to implement middle mile projects throughout the state as part of the new initiative for broadband state funded. They're actually implemented or I should say, there are the program, the larger program is being developed through the California Department of Technology. And so Caltrans is of sorts working for a consultant, working as a consultant to the California Department of Technology to design and implement these projects within our own right of way. So this is the first within District 5. There's others that we will be working to identify and prioritize. And some of those we will be taking advantage of the opportunity in a, like for a SHOP funded project, which is a funding source that Caltrans controls to maintain our facilities. Where we have the opportunities to align broadband infrastructure with our projects, we'll do so because that's an efficient way to get it done. We can go ahead and design and implement those and have them constructed at the same time our projects are out there, which should lead to efficiencies as well. So this is the first, as I mentioned, and we look forward to working with SBCAG on the broadband strategic plan and related broadband implementation efforts. Next, I just wanted to again highlight the Caltrans Sustainable Planning Grants that are an annual process. Again, $34 million statewide. Mostly, I wanted to remind you all that October 27th is the deadline for the application. So please do submit those, work with your staff. I'm sure that they're probably already underway because we're getting so close to the deadline. Also wanted to highlight the Clean California local grants. There is a new application workshop that's just been added. It'll be on Thursday, November 18th from 10 to noon. Again, there's nearly $300 million available statewide. These are going to local jurisdictions, and the call for projects will be in December. And there's a lot more information online. I'll try to post some links online just as a reminder to where to find those resources. And then finally, I wanted to highlight that the new 2021 Interregional Transportation Strategic Plan, or ITSP, has been released by Caltrans. So this is a statewide plan with an interregional focus within District 5 and Santa Barbara County. That's primarily 101. And it also, in this particular plan, has ITIP, which is a funding program through Caltrans focused on interregional facilities. It has scoring criteria identified for the ITIP program as well. And that criteria, as I mentioned before, is really focused on integrating California action, or the Climate Action Plan for Transportation Infrastructure, or CAPDI, and other new initiatives that are kind of refocusing where Caltrans and the CTC and state in general is focusing funds. So with that, I am happy to take any questions.
Thank you very much. Director Perotti?
Thank you. This is not really a question. It's more of a comment and asking for maybe help on how to navigate through. And it's on our homeless encampments, and working with Caltrans and Union Pacific. And we know you guys have been extremely busy with the fire. And so we understand that. But the problem that we're running into with our encampments and cleanups are, we have CityNet working to relocate our folks without homes and get them services and find them hotel rooms or shelters. And so they get them to move, and then the camp doesn't get cleaned up if it's on Caltrans property or Union Pacific, and new people come in. So I kind of feel like we're spinning our wheels on this. And so I just thought I'd throw that out there. And I know that we are planning on having another meeting with Caltrans and Union Pacific on how we can streamline this process and all work together, all of us regionally. It's I don't know if we're piecemealing it, but it is a problem. So that's all I have to say. I don't expect a response, but just so you know.
If I may, Director Perotti through the chair, if I could just respond super quickly, and that is that we are eager to coordinate. Of course, we're trying to prioritize how we're addressing encampment issues throughout the state. Throughout the state and within District 5 for District 5. But that said, we are eager to work with local jurisdiction staff to the degree that there's an interface on the state highway system. So And we do have somebody that's devoted within District 5 specifically to this issue. So we're happy to interact with your staff and coordinate on these issues.
Thank you so much. Thank you.
All righty, any other questions? Comments? Going, gone? All righty, thank you very much, Mr. Eads. We have no communications report, so I would like to thank staff for the presentations today. It was a good meeting, and meeting is adjourned until November 18th at 10 a.m.